because that's what we do. Another takeaway is how this can be very instrumental in our courses. Ideas for course transformation with the use of ChatGPT. And then the last part of the presentation will be based on recommendations and predictions for the future of hospitality and tourism education because of the advent of ChatGPT. So as we all know, changes occurs every time. Before we were using typewriter, before we know it, we are using computer. And now we have all these AIs all around us, even before generative AI. AI has been around us for a very long time. Many of us use Siri, many of us use Google, many of us use other gadgets that all you need to do is talk to or type a little thing and you get everything you want. All these are forms of AI. But the difference between these AIs is that we now have what we call generative AI. Generative AI is different from all this type of AI because generative AI is a little more advanced than all this AI. It's a type of AI that takes inputs and learns from it, then uses that learning to generate new original content. And interestingly, you can ask the generative AI the same questions several times, and it's going to give you unplagiarized answers as often as possible. It can create music, write stories, paint images, or even create new recipes for our menus and what we have. So as you can see on your screen, we have different models of generative AI. And many of you may not know already. Some of you might be aware of these models. As a member of PCMA, there is a model that was created for us, and it's called Sparkit.ai. So what does that do? Everything, event, planning, contract, that generative AI is available to help us in this regard. So, and we're going to be talking about more of the next level, the future of the generative AI at the end of this presentation. And you will see that some people are actually thinking of how they can create what we call GPTs for different specific needs. It could be GPT for hospitality education, GPT for food service. It's like so that's the next level of generative AI that just came out within a week ago. So we're going to be talking about that more. Thank you. JJ, move on.
So before we dive deeper into the generative AI, let's have a session to understand how it works. So basically, let's think about a carpenter. A client gives a carpenter an order, and the carpenter creates what's ordered with using raw materials with various types of tools. The quality of the production, the quality of the product that's made by the carpenter is dictated by a couple of factors. First one is the quality of the raw materials. The second one is the skillfulness, level of skillfulness of the carpenter. And the third one is the quality of the tools. And the fourth one is the quality of the client's order. So if we put that into the generative AI, let's say the ChatGPT is the carpenter and the client is us. So we give ChatGPT a prompt, and then ChatGPT creates what we ask it to create using a raw material, which is the data parameter, and using algorithms like its tools to create the prompt. So the quality is dictated by the quality of the data, the quality of the generative AI ChatGPT itself, and also the algorithms, how to process all the data. Based on that, we get the results from the ChatGPT. But so far, as a user, as a client of ChatGPT, we cannot control many of those quality factors. For example, we we don't have a clear idea of the data itself because OpenAI is not open to that. And we are not clear about the quality of the algorithms or the ChatGPT itself because those are under control of OpenAI. So all we can control for now is the prompt. So we can safely say that our prompts dictate the quality of the results so far. So these are the potential uses of the generative AI when it comes to the hospitality higher education. We can generate ideas for your courses. We can create some scenarios that we can utilize in the student discussion or assignments. We can use it for creating, and we can use for writing or questions or answering those questions.
So now at this point, I would like JJ to set up his computer because we're going to be doing some demonstration. So as JJ is setting up, I would like to see a volunteer. Anybody just pick a subject area, a course that you want us to demonstrate. Anybody have a course in mind? It could be from introduction to strategic management to marketing in hospitality. Any recommendation?
Organizational behavior.
Organizational behavior. So JJ, we're going to work on organizational behavior. So we're going to come up with quick prompts for AI to do. A good example would be to come up with a brief introduction of what organizational behavior in hospitality is. Then after that, we're going to demonstrate. I want you to pay attention to the speed of AI as he's doing this. We're going to ask him to come up with introduction to organizational behavior in hospitality. We're going to ask him to come up with, course objective for the semester. And with that course objectives, the first week, we're going to ask generative AI to give us an intro into this course for the first week of the course. And then maybe we test AI, give us a little bit of multiple choice questions on how to see the readiness of our student for this organizational behavior in hospitality. So JJ, let's start with that. Yeah, so JJ, I think you are doing the prompt. Can everybody see the prompt, please? Yeah, okay. Watch how quickly AI is going to do this. JJ, have you done that? Okay, good.
For the interest of full disclosure, this model is the latest model of OpenAI ChatGPT for Turbo. So it has a newly introduced functions that's announced last Monday. So it's less than a week product. And it's been publicly available since yesterday. So you're looking at the latest version of the most advanced generative LLM model right here. And it's currently giving me the information that more than I asked it to create. Came up with the course objectives, also learning methodology, also assessment.
So now, Paul, when you look at this, I don't know, can you see the screen, Paul?
Yes.
Does it match what you have in mind?
It's scary how close it matches.
Exactly. And you notice it did not come to you to see what you have in your textbook. It's coming up with data that already entered into the system. And it even summarizes everything in chunks that is easy to assimilate. So this is what generative AI does. And it does. JJ, can you ask generative AI to give us some questions just to see the readiness of our students?
Okay.
For this course. This is kind of a test, a teaser, just to see how prepared the students are, so that you as a faculty, we know what to focus on in this class.
Okay, this is the prompt. Please devise a set of challenging pre-course assessment questions for organizational behavior for hospitality that measures seniors' comprehension of industry-related strategic concepts and readiness for this capstone course.
Some of these look like final exam questions, pre-course questions, Godwin.
Yes, it's amazing how generative AI could come up with all
Illustrate the importance of cultural competency in the hospitality industry. I mean, sometimes OB is in the sophomore year or junior year, so it's not a capstone. But to do that without taking the course, my Lord, the students at Denver must be.
Well, it is because of what JJ imputed. So the prompt is directed towards senior student. So JJ, I want you to prompt a different question.
Okay.
Don't use the word capstone.
Mm-hmm.
You can even use sophomore, junior in organizational behavior and do multiple choice questions and answers. Multiple choice questions.
Okay, so what I want to show you here is that okay, let me just put juniors. See if it can come up with a multiple choice questions by itself without narrating that, because the only reason it gives us the more complicated questions like this might be is targeting seniors.
Yes.
Well, you also called it, I mean, JJ, you wrote challenging pre-course assessment questions that measure, that's a setup.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
they could be just regular questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, the parameters we set make a difference. Exactly right.
100%. I'm going to be talking about that very shortly. The result is like your input and your output. There is a lot there's a relationship between that. Like we say in research, garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you input into ChatGPT, you are going to expect that output after all the algorithm that is building it to generate the output. So this is where we have to be really careful. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges and implications after the demonstration section. One thing you will notice from the way we communicate with generative AI right now is like communicating with an assistant or communicating with a colleague. You communicate with empathy and you're asking questions, and you will see the way he's going to respond to you as if he knows you. Certainly, yes, a revised set of course assessment questions for organizational behavior for hospitality. It's like you are communicating with it. What we often do most is when we communicate with generative AI, we communicate with this tool as if we're communicating with somebody, with empathy, with respect, with politeness. Please do this, suggest this, recommend this, as if we're talking with somebody. And that is something that is being really found to be very, very rewarding when using generative AI. So these are revised questions.
And one more thing that I want to point out is that this is a conversation based. So this is a thread of conversation. So previous conversation always makes impact to following consequential results. So if you want to start over, you need to create a different thread of conversation. You cannot ask the different things because it's gonna mess up, because it'll always refer to the previous answers that is given to you.
JJ, one more thing I really want you to do is ask AI to turn this set of questions to multiple choice questions, question and answer. Because sometimes when we just want to see a quick assessment, we don't need fill in the blanks or essay questions. We just want to see where they are, so we know how to design the class or which area to lay emphasis on the classes. And you see what it's doing. It's taking the questions already generated. Now it's turning them to multiple choice questions, so that instead of you looking for asking essay, writing essay questions, grading essay questions, you can just use this as a quick assessment of student readiness. This is how scary to me this tool is. And the prompt is also to give the answers. So Paul, I want you to be paying attention to these questions and answers and seeing if they are correct based on your knowledge in this area. In the early stage of generative AI, some of the questions and answers were around 70 to 90% correct. Now, when we move to 3.5 level, it was around 85 and above correct. Now with GPT-4, this turbo, I'm yet to find out if it is 100% or not. But I can assure you it's going to be 90% and above correct. What I always tell people, when you use ChatGPT, always see everything from ChatGPT as a draft. You are still the expert. You are the boss. ChatGPT is assisting you. ChatGPT is a tool. ChatGPT is like a graduate assistant or student assistant. But don't be amazed how smart this tool is. Don't be overwhelmed with the intelligence it has. But no matter what, it is still our responsibility to check it out, to make sure everything coming out of that prompt, the output from your input, is exactly what you are expecting. And the best part of this current level of turbo ChatGPT is you can actually upload information that you want to upload and ask ChatGPT to use that information to generate whatever you want to generate. You can upload Excel data, you can upload whatever data, and ChatGPT will be there to analyze it for you. In fact, we use ChatGPT to evaluate student application for scholarship. And it gave us a beautiful analysis. Then we asked it to incorporate DEI into the evaluation. And believe it or not, the result changes in terms of those who are supposed to get the scholarship based on these different levels of prompt. So this is a good example of a prompt. Another good one could be with introduction to hospitality. JJ, let's do a prompt for introduction to hospitality, please. So you may want to start a new one or continue.
I probably need to start a new one. It's a new course.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So pay attention to that. I incorporated ACFA standards. So basically create a design a course, but refer to the ACFA standards. And also when I ask it to refer to the cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy when it creates the CLO, and specifically designated this course is for the first year students. While it's working, I got a request from Paul about the asking for a recommendation of textbook on a certain topic. Can we do that to ChatGPT? That was the Paul's question.
Yes.
Yes, and the answer is yes, we can try that. But the database is up to 2013 April for this most advanced model. So if the textbook is published before that, we may see the results, but we may not.
JJ, did you say 2013 or 23?
Oh, sorry, 2023 April.
Okay.
Yeah, 2023 April. So if the textbook is published before that, we may see the result, but as I told you, we don't know the data parameter. The OpenAI is not open for that data parameter specifically. So we cannot guarantee we'll see that or not, but we can absolutely try. But the GPT-4 just created the course description and CLOs for the introduction to hospitality and tourism. Personally, the CLOs are a little too many, but we can streamlining it down if we ask it to. But should we try the textbook question request?
Yeah, go to the textbook.
Okay.
Because the CLO depends on the instructor. So.
I was also asking, could it actually produce a textbook?
Let me answer that, JJ, as you are going through this. We have
no, Paul, you have to do the textbook. That's why you keep getting promoted.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, how much could you possibly ask? Or do you do it by chapter? Is this going to change everything?
Answer that question, Paul. We had a conference here in Colorado because the governor of Colorado is trying to create a system for our education to be free textbook. So we gave a presentation to them how to use OERO to create your textbook from scratch. So to answer your question, that is correct. ChatGPT can be used to create your textbook. However, or it's just going to be based on the data that is currently in the system. There might be no updated information. And so again, you need to look at all the data to make sure everything is correct.
Godwin, isn't it true? This is Fred. Isn't it true that ChatGPT will gather anything on the internet, but it also gathers stuff that's wrong on the internet. So there's no evaluation of accuracy. It's just bringing it all together and writing it in good grammar.
That is change. That is change because generative AI depends on individuals who are working, they call them human trainers. And these human trainers, they have licensed data and data created by the human trainers themselves. And some data, yes, some data that are publicly available to them. However, since the beginning of that generative AI, like I was alluding earlier, some of the informations are not correct. But after some level of criticism, they are scanning those information better to make them as correct as possible. So far, I've not had anything below 90% correct, unless JJ, have you had anything less than that? Or are you still there, JJ?
I'm sorry, what is it?
About the accuracy of generative AI, current GPT-4.
Accuracy on
information.
What?
Information.
If you ask
generation.
it to collect information or to give you a range of what are the issues in an area, or if you ask it to talk about how has sustainability affected OB issues, it'll get you everything from any source, but they never list the sources. So one of the things that I've heard people do is to create an essay on ChatGPT and then copy it and give it to the students, and they have to go through and check for accuracy and find sources for the information, which is a great research and critical analysis. And they find sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's off the wall, because we all know that anything could be on the internet.
So specifically, there are two types of problems with generative AI currently. The first one is the misinformation. So it gathers information from data set that is not clarified to us. So we do not have a clear idea where all the sources are. So often the results that ChatGPT creates often include some misinformation. So that's why Godwin-Charles said everything that's created by ChatGPT should be considered as a draft.
Good.
We need a triangulation. The second problem is hallucination. So AI does not know how to say no to your request. So it has to create something even without any reliable data sources. So it tends to create a fictitious stories and data set by itself to answer those questions, because performing the task is the priority, not the accuracy of the results. So sometimes it does that. It happens mostly when you require a references. Create a list of references that supports the claims that you just created, something like that. If I request, if I make a request like that, it'll try to come up with a reference list, even though it doesn't have a reliable sources to back that up. So in those cases, it tries to create some fictitious ones. So those two things, misinformation and hallucination, is the main, the biggest problems when it comes to research or educational use of ChatGPT so far. So based on Paul's request, we're gonna let it recommend a couple of textbooks for a course guest service. And is it designed for juniors or seniors or sophomores?
JJ, don't worry about that. Don't worry, just go with the course. That's good.
Okay.
So, Paul, you can see what it does. It tells you what it considers very important in a course like this. Then it selects textbooks with the author's name and a brief preview to each of these textbooks, so you can decide which of them you prefer. And then you wrap up with a conclusion of the textbooks and what it can do for you. I think a textbook that I would like Joe to do right now is Introduction to Hospitality, because many of us know many authors who have created textbooks based on Introduction to Hospitality. So let's do that, JJ. So I figured,
Godwin, I have a question.
Walker, we have to come out of this prompt, and that's the first one that comes out. As we all know, John Walker writes a whole lot of books on Introduction to Hospitality. Sorry, Fred, your question.
No, it's good.
And you guys can see Rocco Angelo there, FIU.
Or Yao Ling, etc. Could it identify where there's a gap, i.e., where is a textbook missing in the field of hospitality?
You mean in the introduction?
No. It's a different prompt. It's a different question for you and JJ. I mean, we're doing really good job of pulling stuff from the internet and making stuff in a format that's pretty clear. But let's say Paul was trying to come up with a new research topic, or Marie wanted to write a book, and ChatGPT come up with what are the what's missing, where do we need a new textbook in hospitality or tourism?
Actually,
what are some of the research topics that I could do, for my future research work?
Okay, I think we're going to do that prompt. This is like an experiment. Okay. And you will see what ChatGPT will say. JJ put a very simplified question regarding gaps in the hospitality that we can focus some research area into. Not textbook, research.
And I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, Paul. I was using Marine and Yao Ling and others as well.
I appreciate it. It's no problem.
No, but it just occurs to me that a lot of faculty members who are earlier in their career, unless you talk to enough colleagues, you don't know where there's gaps to pursue.
Okay, I think that's a good question, Joe. Let's see. Like I said, this is an experiment. Let's see what it's going to do. And another thing with ChatGPT is you can tell it how many, a couple, 4, summarizing the course introduction to 30 words, to 50 words. You can do all that with whatever prompt. Fred, do you see what it's telling us?
Yeah.
So based on the current information we have out there, this is areas that ChatGPT thinks some of us should focus on. And then you can continue having a conversation with it, just like JJ is doing right now. Can you give it more suggestions? It's amazing. It's just amazing.
God, I wish I had this when I was teaching research methods and all theses at NYU, because I had to come up with topics every semester, and ChatGPT wasn't there. Oh my God.
Look at all that. So I think demonstration is good enough. So let's talk about more critical challenges for the hospitality education. So JJ, you might want to go back to the PowerPoint, please.
I think I need to answer a couple more questions
Oh,
in the chat. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, I have a question. I have a little bit of discussion about the bias and distortion in the ChatGPT. And Cheryl asked how can you write prompts so that the data is more accurate? So let me answer Cheryl's question first. So you can designate the sources of data. For example, so I'm going to use this, the last topic. If Paul pursues the topic of yes, what are the seminar works that should read first? So pay attention to this last prompt. Refer only to the if you give it this conditional clauses, so the last one reads, refer only to the peer-reviewed academic articles. So if you restrict it in this way, it'll only try to refer to those peer-reviewed academic journal articles. So it gives us a little more guaranteed what it pulls out is something reliable. So it's all about the prompt. And about the bias and distortion, what kind of bias does it have? What kind of distortion does it have? Only the OpenAI engineers know. It's called OpenAI, but it's not open at all. So we don't know. We can only learn from our experience with this type of interactions. That's all we can do so far. But I believe in the future, I mean, based on the speed of advancement in generative AI, AI in general, I believe we'll soon know what kind of bias and distortion that we should be concerned about.
Okay, and you see the way, like I said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. So the prompt is very critical. If you prompt generative AI to bring academic articles, peer-reviewed articles, that's what you will get. If you don't do that, it can pick things from different sources that may not be peer-reviewed and shared with us. And now it is our responsibility, like I said, everything coming out of AI is a draft. As experts, we need to do our due diligence to ensure that everything we are saying is correct, as if there is no generative AI. I call it two things. Generative AI is a tool. That's one. Then many of us who are familiar with graduate assistant, generative AI is the best graduate assistant you can have. Because, you can even tell generative AI to summarize an article on your behalf, to paraphrase an article on your behalf. And you can use that for publication and things like that. But we're going to talk about that in the next section. JJ, let's go to the next section.
Okay. Maureen, Paul, Cheryl, your additional questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, if that's all right.
Oh, yeah, because we're going to answer some of these questions in this next section we're talking about. Limitations. One thing that we've discovered with generative AI so far is that you will hardly get a quote. Similarly, generative AI doesn't plagiarize. At least there is no detectable tool right now to say generative AI is plagiarizing. These are some of the limitations. Human trainers, like I said before, assist in the development of AI models like ChatGPT. They are a team of language specialists who are employed by OpenAI. The product of AI, like I've been saying, is as good as the prompt. The training, otherwise known as instruction given to it, for the output that you are receiving. So this is where those who are using generative AI should be very, very careful. Because if you put in a garbage, your output will be garbage. If you put in something wonderful, your output will be fantastic. Next slide, please. So challenges, concerns of generative AI, assessment concern. As educators, we have to be concerned. How can we teach now? When students can go into this system, use this tool to learn on their own, or even do some of our assignment. You can give them any question, any question, and they can input it into generative AI and get you the answers you need. And I bet you, if they are not 100% correct, they will be over 90% correct. So that is a challenge we as higher educators need to be very, very mindful of. And we need to be thinking, what can we do to mitigate some of these challenges? Like I said earlier, there are no detectable tool for plagiarism. So students can use it to write any essay, any short answer questions, and the answers will be different from one student to the other. I have done some little tests with it. I asked the same question several times, and I get different answers. The answers are correct, but they are written different. So that's challenging. Another thing we really need to be careful about is when you think of the product of your prompt, like I'm talking about the input and the output, we have to pay attention to what we inputted and see what the output is to make sure what we are asking is what we are getting as instructors, as faculties, as researchers, as professionals. Because if you impute something, a good example, when we started this demonstration, JJ imputed something about capstone and senior level courses. And you saw the questions that were generated were higher level thinking questions. Similarly, you can go to juniors and sophomores or freshmen. So you have to be careful what you impute, because what you impute determine your output. JJ, next, please. So issues. Now, what will be the impact of this generative AI on critical thinking in the long run? Because right now we are not thinking, we're just telling the generative AI to think for us, write for us, do this for us, create for us, give me a beautiful introduction. And it comes with a wonderful introduction. I wrote an introduction once, and I asked generative AI to write me another introduction, and I was gasped because I love his introduction better than mine. I'm like, oh my goodness, why do they need me if he can do everything? You know, so we have to be mindful of the impact of this tool on the future generation in terms of critical thinking. We talked about assessment not too long ago, the same thing. What method of assessment should educators be using now? You can use generative AI for a good assessment that is based on critical thinking, as like a research assignment that they can be looking for things on internet, or using AI to come and present in class. That is great. You can ask them to use generative AI to generate scenario questions and answer the scenario questions and bring it to class to explain their understanding of the scenario question. That is great. But what will be the limit of the final summative assessment for our students to help us understand their learning in our programs? So these are things we, as higher educators, need to be thinking about. Ethics. What about ethics? Any of our faculty can use generative AI to write books, to write journals. Is that what we want? Is that allowable? These are discussions that we need to be having in our associations now, in our conferences. Is it okay? Is it just like a tool? We need to be thinking about this, because generative AI picks information that you and many others have done in the past and use it to create new things, without giving credit sometimes, unless you ask it to give credit, citations and things like that. So the negative impact on creativity cannot be, is still ambiguous, because some people can use it to create, whereas some people, it will be limiting their creativity. So we need to be mindful of all these issues and concerns with the advent of generative AI. Next, please, JJ.
So there are some recommendations at this point. So first of all, there's no denying this is the new technology. This is the new technology that we are all going to use in a very near future. And some of us are actively using it already. And many of the students are already using it. And the speed of advancement is scary, to say the least. So we need to adopt it as soon as possible. And the problem is how you're going to adopt it and how we're going to adapt ourselves to the challenges and changes the technology will bring into the education. We need a deep discussion about that. Okay. And also, this is the innovation that we cannot go against. So we need to embrace it. And on Monday, the OpenAI announced the GPT-4 Turbo model, which is a much more advanced model of GPT-4 current model. And it's got cheaper. And it supports every single individual to develop their own GPT model. Their own GPT model without any base knowledge of computer science or software engineering. So you don't have to learn Python or JSON, Java, HTML, nothing. But only if you can just type and make a conversation with GPT, it'll develop a website and application for you. So you can launch it and sell it in an app stores. It's been only 2 days, not less than 48 hours. It's announced on Monday and it's been available to public since yesterday. And it's not been, it's little more than 24 hours available so far. Now we see hundreds of customized GPTs in GPT stores, less than a little more than 24 hours. So we're gonna be using all of those technology daily basis. And education, the hospitality education needs to move fast to adopt it and adapt itself to the change.
That is my question, and I apologize for being late. But JJ, that's exactly my concern and question. There has been such a rapid response to all of this. I worry about our thoughtfulness, intentionality, and also we're so keen and eager to be cutting edge and be able to answer our stakeholders' questions about how this will be. I think we're all rushing to use it. I mean, are we doing it well? I'm looking for, we now have an AI site. I'll put it in the chat as well at Penn State. It's called ai.psu.edu. So clever. But it's academic integrity in AI. So I just worry. It seems like we're rushing, and does anyone have any pauses? The other thing is, let me ask it there. And I have another question to ask all you good folks as well. So anyone concerned about our jumping in the deep end of the pool and not having the correct, life preservers? I don't know how to say it.
So hi, Donna. Nice to see you again, Donna Quadri.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you.
So your question, I think we have a decision in our field, hospitality educators, if I may be more specific, to decide. because other areas, other organizations are embracing it left and right. I belong to many other associations other than CREE, Professional Convention Management Association, Meetings Professionals International. Many other associations are using it left and right. So, and we know the investment going into this tool is just unbelievable, unprecedented. So the argument of is it here to stay or is it a fad is being answered. It's not a fad, it's here to stay. So the question is, how can we use it appropriately? How can we incorporate it into higher education appropriately? That is the next topic. Let me add more to that. There are some universities that were actively involved with the development of generative AI from the beginning. And so now the question is it going to be used by universities? No, it is how can we incorporate it? How can we use it in the best possible way, with regard to ethics, especially? So that to me is the current question. The question we need to be doing is we need to come as a group and create ethical considerations for the use of AI in higher education or hospitality education. That to me is what we should be talking about, and try to advance that across all global hospitality education so that we are not left just anything goes. So to me, that is where we are right now. And you can see that quote up there, AI will not take your job. Those who know how to use AI will. So as time goes on, if we are not moving at that pace, those who know how to use AI, that have no clue about what hospitality education is, they will use AI to write hospitality textbooks. They will use AI to create online programs. They will use AI to do everything we do in class, have it cheaper online. Third-party educator is what I call them. Non-degree institution. We already have a lot of them. And they are very happy because of AI right now, because they don't need to do any contract with us to generate their courses. Now they are using AI to generate their own courses, even though they have no clue about hospitality. So we need to be fast. We can't be slow. We can't be bureaucratic in here. We need to be fast, because many of us were at CREE last summer, and you had the presentation, how this non-degree institution are taking over certificates at a very high margin. I didn't want to bore us with that. I could have shared those data with you. The certificate generated by non-degree institution is way higher than the one coming out of our degree institution. And in fact, many students now go see the data. They don't even want to go to school anymore because it seems easy to get the certificate and get the job. So again, I understand your concern, Donna, but we need to move quick.
Okay, Godwin, good point. Good point. We do need to move fast. I worry about sometimes we're ahead of our own learning curve, but you're right, which is why I'm here too, with all of you. Has anyone, just a quick show of hands, and I'll make this really quick, and I apologize for coming late. This was great, and follow-up session. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, everybody. Godwin, thank you. Has anyone had to adjudicate or be involved with an academic integrity issue with ChatGPT, and how did that go, Joy? Anybody else?
Sorry, yes. So it's happening in ridiculous numbers. And, we sort of have a conduct person on campus, and he's flooded with cases of ChatGPT. And the problem that we're facing is, if students cut and paste, it's easier than if they do a little bit and then kind of paraphrase some of their own, and then, right, because if it's all pasted, it's sort of grayscale in the back. The other issue is that Turnitin is not effective, or at least the version we have isn't effective, right?
Nothing.
So,
So I had an in-class instance rather than a plagiarism paper instance. And in adjudicating that and sitting in on this issue, you know, the student used a device for translation, which they're not permitted to use, but there was it was so angry and it was really obvious, but you can't prove it. It's like, you have 3 vocabulary words in your answer that weren't used in class, but they were accurate. It happened to have been revenue and a revenue class, but the whole process around that, I just find difficult because we're not experts as we can be. And Joy, to the gray thing, you're right. You know, that's not if they're writing a short sentence answer and they're typing it. It's not there. You can't, it's not just a cut and paste thing. So I don't know. That's where I know that we should be adapting to use it, but not everything can be. So, and the faculty, the faculty don't change their assignments that, they don't refresh them that frequently. I don't know. I just find it.
Donna, we're so eyeball deep in this. So just, I know we're over time, but we have this we have a lot of asynchronous classes, right? So like, this accounting professor, he came back to me mid-semester and he goes, okay, I'm throwing my hands up. I have 12 out of 24 students who just scored a 100% on my exam. It's never happened. My tests are always all, they're all scrambled. So, how we rethink assessment, I think, is where it's at. Like, we have to be creative about how we're assessing students now. This is not just text and narrative. This is in our numbers and our statistics classes and our accounting classes.
Yes.
It's like everywhere. So now we have to go back as faculty. Well, we're encouraging faculty to rethink their assessment processes. And number 2 is we're encouraging our faculty where they can to offer assessments that provide application. So it may not just be
absolutely, Joy. And those are the skills, and to Godwin, to your good point, those are the skills I don't think we have yet.
Right.
They're not deep in and I think, and Maureen, rightly so, maybe it's a good topic for the NENA conference. I think we need to have a follow-up with all you good folks who are adjusting assessment. I need to provide to all my faculty opportunities. Thinking alone in the silo, I just,
I agree.
Donna, it's so good. It's made me rethink my my rubrics, because it's like, especially in an online class where I'm being much more specific, because too often students get a little lazy. And as Godwin will tell you, and JJ will tell you, if you don't ask AI the right question, you're going to get a really generic answer. And when I can substitute Hilton Hotel for Ford Motor Company, it's a pretty generic answer. And so it's helped me rethink what gets the highest, what is a satisfactory versus a really excellent, however I've put together. And I've not perfected it, but it's just really made me rethink my instructions of what goes into constituting, so that even if someone is, getting their answer from AI, I'm still requiring them, like, go to the company's website and show me proof of this, or show me a piece of the company's marketing that demonstrates this, so that even if AI gave them the somewhat generic answer, they still do something to actually show that they've engaged in the content. It's not perfect. I'm sure at some point it's, AI is just going to make that useless, and we're going to have to go back to like in-person oral assessment. But I have just found
the European way still exists. Oral exams still exist.
Yeah.
Actually, that is perfect, Donna. We talk about it too, because we have a group here between me and JJ and some others. We keep brainstorming the next level of assessment for hospitality education, and hopefully we are working on a journal for the Journal of Hospitality and Tourism Education, ICRE journal. So we're going to be incorporating different recommendations for new levels of assessment during the advent of AI. So please, stay tuned for that if it is published. Hopefully it's going to be published, because I gave this similar presentation at ICRE, this last ICRE, and we'll talk again about assessment. And between JJ and I, we've been developing our skills in this area. This is probably our 7th presentation, and we still have 2 more coming up across the country. So we are really looking into this very well. Assessment and ethics is our issue right now. I think it would be nice for CRE to bring best practices for assessment, with the advent of AI to the next CRE in Montreal, so that many people can start brainstorming. How can we change this thing? It's not one person's job, it's a group. It takes a village. We need to be thinking of new method of assessment, because AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's not. So we need to take leadership of our hospitality and tourism education, come up with methods of assessment, come up with, if I may, regulations that universities will implement, so that when we are teaching, all these legal issues won't affect us, because it's in our syllabus. We incorporate it into our syllabus, everybody will adopt it, and we can use it as we wish. So I think ICRE should also be in the forefront of this, promoting best practices with the advent of AI, so that, new faculty, old faculty, we know how to use it.
So thank you so much. I hate to be the one to cut this great conversation, but we are about 10 minutes over our scheduled time. I know on Friday, everybody has a lot of meeting. So I think we all agree that we need to have a follow-up session with these wonderful speakers. So maybe I'll reach out again to JJ and Godwin. So maybe we can schedule another one in the spring, and then hopefully I can see all of you again, then we can continue this discussion. All right, so thank you so much everyone for joining this Rising Blind of NENA. So hope to see you guys again in our next series, which is in December. All right, so thanks again, everybody, and have a nice weekend. I will see you guys.
Thank you.
By the way, the recording will be available if you wanted to kind of review again, and you're welcome. It will be posted on NENA website.
Thank you
very much.
Please send us the link so we can see how stupid we did.
Sure, I will. Thank you. Bye, guys.